There's a moment we all reach in life when we realize something just is not working. But what do? We keep pushing, we keep fighting, we keep trying to force something to change, a relationship, a situation, a person, or even our own circumstances. And the harder we try to control it, the more exhausted we become. But here's the question that is not a popular one to ask. When do we keep fighting? And when is it time to surrender? Because surrendering has a terrible reputation in society today. It sounds like weakness, like quitting, like giving up. But what if surrendering isn't giving up at all? What if surrendering is actually the moment you stop fighting battles that were never yours to win? What if peace doesn't come from trying harder, but from learning when to let go? When something isn't for you anymore, or when it never was. Today we're talking about the difference between fighting, giving up, and surrendering, and why surrender might actually be one of the strongest, most freeing things a person can do. If you've ever felt stuck, exhausted from trying to control everything, or unsure whether to try harder or release your grip, this episode is for you. Hey guys, it's your host, Maddie on the High Road Podcast. I am unbelievably excited for this episode today. I feel like surrender is just, I talk a lot about seasons and the season that I'm in, and surrendering is currently where I'm at in life. Just surrendering to the things that I cannot control, surrendering to what I thought, was for me, surrendering to the plan that I had. And I want to talk about today how we have such a backwards idea about what surrendering actually is. And I really do think that in society, we just have this view, this negative connotation of surrendering is negative. It means that you're giving up. It means that you're giving in. It means that you're laying down and waving your white flag. But it's the opposite. There comes a time in our life when we just realize that something is not working. Whether it's a relationship or a person, whether it's a situation, or whether it's something within us, whether it's something that we're fighting within ourselves. There comes a time when we just simply say, this isn't working. I need to surrender to this. So I want to go through a couple situations that just come to my mind. Right? Just a couple of different examples of all the things that we try to control. And sometimes we're aware of it and sometimes we're not. But we try to control people, relationships, our children, our coworkers, like the inevitable, like the things that we just are going to happen. And there's nothing that we can do about it. But we still, as people, it's almost like it's in our nature to try to tighten our grip. To try just to do something about a situation that we absolutely have no control over. And the more that you gain experience and the wiser that you become in this life, you truly realize that you don't have a lot of control over anything. Truthfully, outside of you, there's nothing that you can control. We save our children from every single mistake. This is an example of control. We tell our coworker how to do their job, and then we get mad when they don't do it the way that we want them to. This is control. We tell our spouses that the family is coming this weekend, and this is what needs to be cleaned. Here is the checklist, the to-do list, the whole nine. I know that you wanted to watch TV, but here we are. Control. We people please and then resist the urge to be disliked by anyone because we just can't stand that idea. It's control. And we refuse to let our children form their own opinions about the other co-parent. And instead, we decide that it's in their best interest to air out that co-parent's dirty laundry so the children's opinions are formed for them. Control. All of these things are just examples of control and things that are kind of just that we can be aware of, and things that we just have absolutely no idea that we're doing. And that's a really dangerous place to be in when we're being controlling and when we don't know. I don't see myself as a very controlling person. Truthfully, I'm like really, really type B, actually. I'm a SPED teacher in a behavior classroom, so I need to be super, super flexible, like flexible, structured. That's how I am. Like, I'm definitely not type A, but I'm not like, a type C person where I'm just like totally unscheduled and unorganized. I'm organized in my very own way. Truthfully, I think that, like my mom is a type A person, and, so like her and I kind of can butt heads sometimes, when it comes to like, you just have to be 5 minutes late, don't you? Like we've had these conversations and I'm like, I had to do this, or this is me and the kids just kind of took our time. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but I'm just pretty laid back in most situations. But I have had so many moments where I have been perceived as being controlling, or I recognize that I actually was. And I never felt like I was trying or intentionally being controlling, but it was just a lot of things outside of me that were happening that I did not want them to be happening. And so again, I'm trying to control circumstances and, outcomes, but I was being hurt during certain seasons in my life. And I felt like I wasn't signing up for the things that were happening to me, right? Like we never do. We never sign up for those things. We get into relationships and then we never sign up to be betrayed. We get a job and then never sign up to them to replace us with somebody else. Like there's so many things that happen that are really, really hurtful, and we try to control, and sometimes we end up becoming like this totally different person. And that's really what happened with me, is I felt like I became this person that I really didn't even recognize because I was trying to control all of the really hurtful things that were happening around me. The relationships that didn't go the way that I planned for them to go, and that's how they were supposed to happen. But in the moment, it was really, really hard for me to see it that way, especially when I was pregnant. And when that relationship didn't work out, and it was like, and now I have this child, now I have these children, like what in the world? You have to be kidding me. I wanted to control that. I wanted to control how those things were going to work out. Like there's no way you're going to sit here and betray me and cheat on me and do this to me. No way. I'm not going to lay down my or start waving my white flag and just let this be okay. I felt like I needed to do something about it. And you best believe that I drained myself doing it. I have been in situations where I felt like, if you ever just kind of, vibe off of somebody's energy, I guess, like when other people are sad, or when other people, if I was in a really, really good mood and then I met up with someone who was not having a good day or something, I used to get really just pissed off by that. I was like, I'm having a good day and you're just killing the vibe right now. You had a bad day. I was controlling, wanting someone else to feel what you're feeling. It's just, it wasn't okay. And I realized that I had done that sometimes in my life. I wanted other people to feel what I was feeling. and maybe even do things like when I felt like doing them. Like it just kind of was, when I talk out loud, it just sounds very selfish. And, when you are controlling in a way where you're not recognizing it or not making changes to it, it very much can be a selfish thing. I wanted to control other people's opinions about me. If someone didn't like me, I like nearly lost sleep over it. I've talked a lot about in past episodes how I've struggled with being a people pleaser most of my life. And while this is a huge, 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 wound that I have been working on, it has been something that's been really, really hard for me. And so if I recognize that like someone doesn't like me, and you can tell, like I've had plenty of people in my life where you can tell I just walk into the room, like I breathe wrong. I don't know. Granted, those are people that like now I'm like, I don't give a shit if you don't like me, or like, I don't even know what your reason is, nor do I care to know. And I'm not like saying that I'm just treating them like crappy, but I'm just saying like why I feel like I need to have everybody like me when I'm so different from some people. Like you clash with people. Some people you get along really well. Like people are different for a reason. And I just kind of wanted everybody just to like me. So that's something that I felt like I've always had to prove to people. And it's very much affected me in my life. And so that's a huge area that I've tried to control. I just couldn't stand the idea of someone not liking me. And that had a lot to do with, like it affected my authenticity, that I felt like I couldn't be myself around someone, or like I would do or say things that I wouldn't normally do or want to do. So that has really taken a toll on me, and I'm able to recognize that now. But I felt like I needed to control everything around me, and especially when things didn't go the way that I thought that they would, which has been like literally the past 6 years of my life. Like, in fact, I go to counseling now, and I basically talk to her about like, okay, I'm hopeful. Like I want good things to happen for me. I believe in good things. I'm always want to be like gentle and kind, and I don't want the world to make me cold, but this really good thing happened and I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. And I just like, that's something that her and I work through, because I'm like, for the past 6 years, right, I think that something is going to happen this and go this way, and it ends up going the other way. And so it's just kind of a natural instinct, I think, for me to prepare for maybe the worst case scenario, or prepare for something that may disappoint me, or prepare for like whatever I think is going to happen. Most likely 90% is going to go the other way. So, and not in all situations, but in a lot, I would say recently in my life. So overall, I just lost years of my life trying to control. Like I tried to tighten my grip. I tried to try harder. I basically lost myself. I lost who I was and like what I stood for. And I look back at things that I would never do now that I once did. And I believe it was because I was so fixated on trying to control. And when that's where your heart is, when you're trying to control everything around you and people and circumstances and, prove to people things, it messes with you mentally. It messes with your heart, your motives, just like your integrity. All of that can really, really change. And so I believe that truly is what happened to me. I just kind of lost who I was, trying to prove all of these things and control all these things that truthfully were inevitable. Like those things were supposed to happen to me. And now I can look back and I can say I understand them, or at least I understand most of them. But in the moment, it was really, really hard. So I want to talk about the question, how do we even know if we're trying to control? Well, we can know if we're trying to control a situation if it just completely consumes you. If you're losing sleep at night. There has been so many situations in my life where I am freaking dog tired and I lay down in my bed and my mind is just going until 3 o'clock in the morning. I get so pissed off when I can't sleep. Like I'm so angry and then I get angrier at myself because I'm not that person that will I don't even have a TV in my bedroom. So I'll go downstairs and well, I won't go downstairs. I will stay in bed. That's my problem. And just lie there. I won't even watch TV. I won't get on my phone. I'll just freaking lie there and I get so mad. Anyway, besides the point, clearly you could tell how mad that made me. It just made me angry thinking about it. I hate not sleeping. You feel exhausted instead of feeling empowered. You're just drained, mentally, physically. It just completely takes over your body. You lack any and all boundaries. Maybe there's even boundaries that you completely resist, right? Especially when it deals with another person. If someone else has boundaries with you and then you are having an issue with that. Every single person has the right to have boundaries, whatever their boundaries are. Every single person can and should have boundaries. But then if you are trying so badly to control that you are resisting boundaries from other people, or you're not having any boundaries yourself, it can go both ways. That's how you know that you're controlling when you're resisting those boundaries. Nothing changes despite repeated effort and cycling. So you're just going through cycles over and over and over again. I cannot tell you how many freaking times in my life I have gone through cycles and cycles and cycles. And it's I can only imagine that God is just looking down on me, right? You've all heard this before and just being when are you going to get this? And thank God that I serve a wonderful God who is graceful and merciful to me, because there has been so many times when I have messed up and I have not just gotten it. I just could not figure it out. And so I repeated a lot of cycles because I was trying to control. And sometimes as people, we believe that effort equals the outcome. So we just keep trying harder and keep trying harder and keep trying harder. And that's exactly where I was. That's where I've always been. If I try harder, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to get what I want. But we have to ask ourselves, am I trying to control something that was never even meant to be mine? Am I trying harder with this? Am I forcing this situation, this relationship, this circumstance, this job, this buying this house, moving to this town, whatever it is? Am I forcing this right now? And it just doesn't seem like it's lining up. I'm losing peace over this. I'm losing sleep over this. I'm worried about this. I'm anxious about this. Something isn't adding up. All the puzzle pieces are not there. You might just be trying to control. So the opposite of control is surrender. So what is surrendering? I want you to know that surrendering is not giving up, giving in, allowing mistreatment or boundaries to be crossed, or accepting defeat. Those are not surrender. But surrendering is releasing control over what you planned, acceptance, choosing peace instead of resistance. That is surrender. The biggest thing to surrender is that you're gaining peace because you're letting go of the things that are not for you. You're not continuously repeating those cycles and trying harder. You're letting go and allowing what's for you to come to you. One of the biggest things that I love about what is surrendering is that it comes with acceptance and releasing control. And I talked about how surrender is not allowing mistreatment or boundaries. We have to understand that. Having boundaries is so incredibly important in our lives, in relationships, in circumstances, situations, in our job, in our friendships, in our families, with our children. Having boundaries is so important because then we know exactly what is for us. Because when we have boundaries, that means that the people, the things that are supposed to be in our lives are going to respect those. We're going to be comfortable. We're going to feel safe. We're going to do that. Boundaries is not control. And I am so tired of living in a world where I feel like over and over again, I hear from people that boundaries is a scary word. And I think that that's okay. Like at one point, it was a scary word to me because it felt controlling. You have a boundary with me. You're trying to control me. You're telling me that I can't do something. I'm not telling you a freaking thing that you can't do. I'm telling you what I won't do. I'm telling you what I will do. Boundaries has so much more to do with you. And when we have boundaries, it makes everything so much clearer for us because we lay out what is for us. We lay out what is not, what we will do and what we won't. And so then when things are not aligning, like boundaries is just one extra step for us to figure out if something is aligning with us, because then it's like if we're not gaining peace, if that relationship, if that friendship is constantly crossing those boundary lines, there's something wrong with that. And there needs to be some sort of like, all right, we have to figure this out, or I need to surrender this. I need to let go of this because this is not working. So it's so important in this situation when talking about surrendering to also talk about boundaries. So I'm currently reading the book Boundaries, actually, by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, I believe. And I'm actually going to tag it on my Amazon storefront and give you guys the link just so you can directly go to it. And in that list, it has all the books that I've read. Like there's parenting books, self-help books. Those are just all like those are my thing that I read. And so this one is absolutely marvelous, whatever I just said, I don't know. But a quote in that book is, remember that boundaries always deals with yourself, not the other person. It's the opposite of control. It's giving up control. And I said that earlier a little bit in some different words, but when we think about boundaries, and the next time that you hear that boundaries is scary, or someone is thinking that it's controlling, or the next time that someone tries to manipulate you, when you give a boundary and they tell you that you're being controlling, first off, the people who don't have boundaries themselves, the people who don't have boundaries for other people, the people who give access to other people and things and don't have those lines drawn, they are always going to say that boundaries are controlling. Because in their eyes, any sort of line, any sort of and this is a control thing. When people don't respect boundaries, that's fully a control thing. Because people who don't respect boundaries, they're basically saying, I want to do whatever I want to do, and that means that I get to do whatever I want to do for myself, and I get to do whatever I want to do to you. That's what that means. So we have to remember that when we're setting boundaries, like the next time that you set boundaries and someone tells you that you're being controlling, word it in a way where it's like, no, I'm not saying that you can't do anything. I'm just telling you what I won't do. I'm just telling you what makes me uncomfortable. I'm just telling you what's going to happen if this happens. That's all. Surrendering means choosing yourself. When you set boundaries, when you surrender to things that don't belong to you, you are choosing yourself. You're choosing peace. I really, really wish that I would have known this sooner. I wish I would have known about all of these things but like I'm a huge believer in you know what you know. And then once you know better, then you can do better, right? Like I started my first podcast with that. The quote by Maya Angelou. It's incredibly important to like be able to learn from your experiences and grow. And so while I say I wish I would have known this sooner, I don't know. At the same time, like I think that I had to go through all of the really, really hard things and learn as I go and change along the way. The relationships that I got into, it was like I said earlier, I'm not going down this way. You're not going to cheat on me. This girl that you were talking to, I'm going to make sure that she knows. I'm going to make sure that I have the messages. How many people in relationships have played like FBI agent? That's insane to me. And I'm saying that not in a judgy way. Like I'm telling you that I did that. It was so controlling. Why on earth you are going to be in a relationship? Again, I'm not judging. I'm telling you that this was literally me. Things were right in front of my eyes. And if you are trying to play the FBI agent in a relationship and trying to control and you have like hints or suspicions or whatever. I'm not saying that you should assume and then go off of those assumptions. Every single time in a relationship, you should always communicate. Effectively communicate. But if like something is popping up and it doesn't seem right or your partner's being secretive, it's probably because they are. And you don't need to know the details. You just need to get out of there. I'm a firm believer in that. Like I did that. I went down that road for way, way, way too long. I think it's so important to surrender in those things. Just to know that like, hey, this is not going the way that I thought it would. And I don't have to know all the details, but like sayonara. When I was in a recent relationship that actually was very, very serious, and him and I were a family. I mean, he was everything to my children. And to this day, months later, I'm still very much grieving that relationship. And I will always, always, always respect it. We had so many amazing good memories that I will carry with me. I have nothing but good things to say, but the last moments were extremely blindsiding to me. And how it was handled was blindsiding to me. And I think that those are such hard situations to be in because, if you've ever been in a situation where you share your life with someone, whether it's a friend, whether it's, a relationship, a partner, whatever the case is, how many of us share our lives with someone? We choose to be vulnerable, and then it kind of seems like they just turn into somebody new. Like I'm currently grieving someone who I feel like is dead, someone who's gone, because it doesn't seem like that person is alive anymore. That's not in the last moments. That's not who I thought that they were. And that's so incredibly sad. But, when I went through that relationship in the last things that had happened, I'm still going to carry all of the really positive things with me. But I had to ask myself, with what is happening right now, right in front of me, and, I'm sure he needed to ask himself the same thing, and whatever his perception was, I don't think that it was at all the same. But like I had to ask myself, do I need to surrender to this? Like I can't sit here and fix anything. I can't control anything. What I'm seeing is what I'm getting. And we have to be in a relationship and ask ourselves that question. I have been in so many relationships where I sat with and acted upon and just stayed in things where I wanted a certain situation to happen. I wanted that person to be who I wanted them to be in my mind. And it was kind of like I just made it all up. Like we want people to be their potential. And or we want people to be what they tell us they're going to be. But we have to be able to surrender to what is right in front of us. We have to be able to see things for what they are and for reality, no matter how hard that is. I had to ask myself, could I stay in this knowing that things like what's right in front of me might not get any better? Even with all of the amazing good moments, even with being a family, like all the things, if it doesn't get any better, or is it better for me and my children to go through the hurt, to go through the sadness and the loss and the grief, the genuine grief of losing someone, of losing what my children literally considered like a dad, like he was in that role. And I literally chose the second option because experiencing hard things and uncomfortable things, and even the hurt that I knew was going to come with us and still is, it was better to surrender to that than stay in something that did not seem like it was at all for me. And today, if you're in that situation, I really hope that you ask yourself, like, no matter how hard it is, in life, we have to choose our hard. And the hard that we pick, it's either going to make our life a whole of a hell lot harder, or if it's going to make, like, the hard that we pick is going to be a different kind of hard. And our life will get easier as time goes on. We have to ask ourselves that. So this relationship went the opposite of what I planned, right? I didn't have closure. I felt like I had a lack of respect. I felt like I was the bad guy. And even to this day, I feel like I'm being treated as the bad guy, right? And I'm like, what did I do? And every single person has their own perception. And it's so important that we don't try to control someone else's perception. Like, get in the habit of being like, your perception is different than mine, because we can all be in the exact same situation and we can see it differently because of our own experiences, because of, what we're feeling in those moments. We're going to be perceiving situations differently. I had to be able to surrender, to let go of the control and the perspectives of so many people who repeatedly chose patterns of behavior that were not okay. And I felt like when I have advocated and stood up for myself, again, like there could have been plenty of times where I was in the wrong. There could have been plenty of times where I did not stand up or advocate for myself in the right way. But when I did do that, a lot of the times I would want to change that person's perspective. Like, you're viewing me like this right now. You're viewing me controlling. You're viewing me as, this or that, or and I wanted to change that person's perspective. Even if I firmly believed that I was not being that, or even if there was genuine, truth. If that was the reality and their reality, or their perspective, I should say, was not reality, I still wanted to prove that. How many times do we want to just prove what people are thinking, or their opinions, or their perspectives to a situation? How many times do we break up with someone and we just end up arguing with that person, or telling your side of the story to everybody? So there's some sort of validation. How many times do we do that? I encourage you just to stay silent. I'm not saying that don't advocate for yourself or anything, but save your energy. I lost so much of my peace trying to just persuade and get people to admit when they were wrong. And even to this day, there have been people in relationships that I've been in, and I've been like, dang, it would be really nice if they admitted, if they took accountability, if they said sorry. And it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And it's so hard when we don't get closure. It's incredibly hard when we don't get closure. Like it feels like a part of our life. It feels like a huge piece of our life just kind of goes missing without that closure sometimes. It truly feels like, especially in relationships, someone died. But we have to be willing to surrender to that, to let go of it, to be okay that someone might not take accountability ever. There was a situation that I was in when I was really younger, excuse me, and I was firmly in the wrong. I was firmly in the wrong, and like it was a relationship that I was in when I was way back in college, and I think that I just handled that situation at like just a total dick, and my communication sucked, and I think I was just very immature. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that like we would have made it work or anything, but what that person gave to me and what that person stood for in my life, and the value that that person had in my life and to the people that I cared about, like even their lives too, I was just an asshole. And I look back and I think I didn't learn that. I wasn't aware of that until I went through it literally like 6 years later. So sometimes people get it. Sometimes people like finally something clicks for them years later, months later, I don't know. And sometimes it never does. And sometimes we never get that sorry. And we have to be able to live without that. I spent almost 3 years trying to tell someone how to be a parent. Like, and that's as respectful as it can be. Respectfully. Like to this day, there's still excuses and there's still like blaming me and all the things. And I'll be like, this is right in front of you. This is right in front of all of us. And I don't know. I try to change the perspective of my children's father a lot. And I had to let go of like the anger and the resentment, because at first it was anger and resentment because of us not being able to be a healthy family, right? And then it was not being able to be healthy co-parents. And then it was like anger and resentment because he's the reason why I am like doing this completely all on my own. And the thing that bothered me the most for a really long time is that he acted like he was like it was on me. He acted like he, didn't have any choice in the matter. He acted like his hands were tied, and it was always excuse after excuse after excuse. Excuse after why he couldn't help out, why he couldn't pay for something. Excuse after why he couldn't be involved, why he couldn't see them. A million and one things, like, and again, like in the most respectful way, like this is just factual. This is never the place for me to put anybody on blast. Like that wouldn't be correct, and nobody has the right to defend themselves on here when I'm just simply doing my own podcast. Like I'm not going to do that, but at the same time, that really consumed me for a really long time, and I tried to control that. So if you're in that situation today where, you're a single parent or there's children involved and the other parent is maybe not doing what they said that they were going to do. The other parent maybe is the reason why you split up. The other parent is, whether he's involved or she, or, whether they're parenting the completely opposite of what you are, like it's really hard. Those situations are really, really hard, but they're harder if you're trying to control. They're harder if you're trying to, if you're holding on to anger and resentment. And I encourage you to go through those things, to process those things. I had to be angry for a really long time. My counselor recently told me when I was trying to hide some of my anger, she's like, you have to let that out, because that's one step further into the healing process. Like you have to go through those steps. Be angry. But being angry and acting out of your anger are two very different things. So you have to be able to, decipher between those two, that you can feel something, but you don't have to act like, a total psycho either just because you're angry. And kind of going back to how I really tried to change people's perspective, like especially when it was, to me, it seemed really irrational, or I would be like, this is not the reality, whether it was my children's father or a relationship that I was in. I didn't like it when people had me as like the bad guy, and people use other people to be excuses. Like, you did this wrong, you did that. People always have excuses when they don't want to take accountability. There's always something that you can take accountability for. Always. There's always something. Like, it's the road goes both ways. And so the difference between then and now, when I used to probably just waste days on end trying to get someone to like admit something that they were never going to admit and try to control that, is that I realize now that I can no longer be manipulated. If people have the perspective, if people truly believe, that their side is the truth, or that you're the person to blame, or or refuse to take accountability, whatever the case is, don't be manipulated. Like, know the truth and also own up to your own stuff, but like, know what is reality, and don't let someone else tell you what the reality is when that's irrational and it's not the truth. Surrender to people's opinions and perspectives. It is their right. Again, like, people can think whatever they want to. It just doesn't have to be reality just because they say so. When we let people tell us what reality is when it's not at all the case, that's when we are really susceptible. Sorry, I'm terrible at saying that. Susceptible to being gaslit, and just totally are emotionally exhausted. This was my life for a really long time. Someone was telling me the things that were happening and what I seen right in front of me, the facts that I had right in front of me, that they weren't the truth. And as crazy as that sounds, that's actually mental abuse. That's psychological abuse. When you're going through that and your brain actually rewires. Your brain actually changes. My brain, genuinely, I kid you not, my brain actually changed. Like, I started to, even years later now, I'm having to really process and work through things because my brain just takes an extra step, and I have to process longer when it's like, okay, is this situation tricking me? And can I trust myself with what I know? When I read this message, when I see this person, like, can I trust what's in front of me? And when you've been in abusive relationships where someone told you something that, like, or someone refused to take accountability or always denied the facts, that you are very, very susceptible to being gaslit and emotionally exhausted. So don't ever let anybody manipulate you, or, tell you that, like, that you're the problem, or don't dive into trying to get someone like that to admit that they're wrong, because chances are that they're not going to. If someone isn't healed or willing to look in the mirror, they will believe whatever they want in order to sleep at night. And that might just be blaming you. That might just mean trying to turn your whole entire world upside down. It might mean you asking yourself the question if it's worth it to lose peace over trying to persuade someone the truth. trying to persuade someone what they did wrong. People do this in order to run from this themselves and refuse all accountability. It's not worth it. Surrender to it. Let it go. It's not for you. Let it go. So right now, before we keep going, we're actually going to take a quick break. But I don't want you to check out, because on the other side of this, we're getting into the part most people miss. The line between giving up and true surrender. And why one keeps you stuck while the other one actually sets you free. If you've ever wondered whether you're holding on too tightly or afraid to let go, you're going to want to hear what's next. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the second half of this episode. I'm so incredibly glad that you stuck around, because this is such important information. So right now we're going to dive into when are we giving up and when are we just letting go, and what is the difference? Because in order to surrender, we have to be able to understand, because for a lot of people, when we surrender, we feel like we're giving up. So we have to know the difference. So giving up is feeling hopeless, feeling defeated, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're already mentally, emotionally, physically exhausted. And it leaves people feeling stuck. I remember that my mom asked me years ago, how many signs does God have to give you in order for you to walk away? I remember I had a phone call with her. It was an extremely frustrating and uncomfortable one. I was in a time of my life when I was not willing to take accountability. It was a very, very tough season. I felt like, what I was doing was the right thing, and I needed to try and try again. And I felt like if I wasn't trying harder, I was just giving up. I was so confused. Like I was so genuinely confused. I was so genuinely stuck. I had lost all of my peace. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was pushing everybody away. And sometimes we ask ourselves in these situations where we feel like we're giving up, when we feel like we're giving up on that relationship too early, when we feel like we're giving up on the job, when we feel like we're giving up on our goals and our dreams, whatever the case is. If it's something that is not for you, we're just going to keep asking ourselves, like, when is this going to get better? And, there's a huge difference between resilience and challenge and obstacles that just come with life versus this is not for me. I'm losing everything over it. I'm losing my peace. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm drained. And oftentimes it's a situation where it's like we just keep holding on, and we ask ourselves, okay, if I just keep holding on, I'll see if this changes. If I just keep holding on to this relationship, I'll see if he changes. Right now he's yelling and screaming and acting like a crazy person, but if I just love him more, I'll see if he changes. No! Like, if he's punching holes in the walls right now, what on earth makes you think that he is going to change? Unless he is in counseling right now, unless he is seeking so much self-help, doing all the things, unless he is taking time to himself, unless he is communicating with you effectively, unless he is showing you signs that it is actually going to get better. There's such a difference between sticking with someone versus just letting someone suck the life out of you. You have to ask yourself, is it actually really going to get better, or am I just not accepting what's right in front of me? Things that cycle, they often get worse when they're ignored. Don't ignore. So when are we then letting go? And letting go brings more peace. So when we're describing giving up, it's like this negative connotation, right? Like it's like I'm hopeless. It's this kind of yucky feeling. But when we let go, that gives us back our control. It's like, okay, this situation didn't defeat me. I'm choosing something. I'm choosing where I'm going to go before it does defeat me. So when you're letting go of something, you have clarity, you have intention, you have emotional relief, and you create space for peace and navigation in new doors and new directions. Letting go is a choice. Giving up is like, I don't have a choice anymore. This is all I have. This is the only thing that I can do. Letting go is, hey, I have two options here. I have many options. I can choose this door or I could choose this one. But you know what? I think that I need to choose myself, or I think that this one is healthier for me. So I'm going to let go of this one, even though it might be hard. Letting go of anything is hard, especially when you've gotten to know it. Change is hard for people. It's in our nature. Change is hard. Transition is hard. But we have to remember that giving up shuts you down and letting go opens you up. It opens up doors for you. Ask yourself instead of, how do I fix this? When we're controlling, we're trying to put all of this pressure on ourselves. We're trying to not let go. We're trying to just hold on to something and force it. So it becomes like, if there's, all of these signs right in front of us, it becomes, okay, like this is not working. I'm in this cycle. I've been doing this for a long time, but you know what? I can still fix it. I can still try harder. And so you're putting all of this pressure. Just release it. Ask yourself instead, is this mine to even carry anymore? What is this trying to teach me? I truthfully, at heart, I'm a fixer. I am a fixer at heart. Like, it is just who I am. But it has led me down a road of so much hurt. So I can say now, like, I'm a fixer because I want to problem solve. I'm a fixer because I analyze. I'm a fixer because I observe. I always want to come up with a reason as to how I can understand things. I get that about myself. That is who I am. However, I have understood that I can't fix other people. I can't fix other situations. I can't fix what that person is doing. I can't fix it. We have to be able to understand that we can be someone who cares and someone who's empathetic, but when we try to fix other people and other situations that are not for us, the things that we should not even be involved in or allow, those things to have access to us, then that's when we can get really, really hurt. And I think that me trying to fix other people, I don't know if this is any of you listening, but I think me trying to fix other people had a lot to do with like the work that I didn't want to do in myself. So I tried to fix other people because I wanted to avoid me. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things in life I think that we can fix. You can fix marriages. You can fix, you 1000% can be in a marriage that is not going well. A marriage where there was betrayal, there was cheating, like there was yelling, like all the things. I'm a firm believer that marriage can be fixed. Friendships, tension at your workplace, family feuds, all of these things can be fixed, but they cannot be fixed if it's just one person trying to control and the other one is just totally checked out and refuses to take any accountability or do the work. You can't do this thing on your own. If you're going to fix a marriage, you can't do it on your own. It takes two people doing the work. And we have to be okay also if that other person, that friend, our spouse, if they just simply choose a different path, if they don't want the one that we want. Fixing is also not great at all without boundaries. I've explained in previous podcasts that I didn't know anything about boundaries until my late 20s. So without boundaries, we can be, with or without boundaries, I guess, we can be kind, we can be empathetic, but when we're just those things without any sort of boundaries, we often let people have access to us. We often are very manipulated by people. And without boundaries, then we're often attracted to the wrong people in any relationship. And we end up losing ourselves because oftentimes people who are trying to fix, they try to gain love by doing the work. They try to gain love by working harder. I'll stay by you. I'll stay by your side. I'm going to fix this. That childhood wound, that every single time that you get mad, you start to yell. Every single time you start to punch things. Every single time. Like when you were a 6-year-old, you went into your room and you isolated yourself, and now at 32 you isolate yourself from me for 3 days and refuse to talk. I'm going to fix that. No, you're not. You're not going to fix anything at all. Like that is that person's job. And that has been one of my hardest lessons. And while it might seem so simple, but when you're a fixer, you just try to do all the work. And so you try to get validation from someone who hasn't done the work themselves, who maybe doesn't even like themselves, and someone who's maybe looking for someone else to do the fixing for them without ever having to do the internal work. They're never going to choose you, because that is just a cycle of manipulation and enabling, and them realizing that you are going to do everything for them. They just need to ask you to jump and you're going to say how high. So without boundaries, it's so dangerous to try to fix anything. Being a fixer is controlling. You're not letting people just be themselves. I had to learn that the hard way. So many of the moments in my life just didn't go the way that I thought that they would. But truthfully, it taught me so much about myself. When I realized that I was a fixer, and all of the things that I tried to control, all the things that I tried to work so hard at, and then when they didn't go my way, I blamed, and I was angry, and I was resentful. And this season taught me so much, because I couldn't get over those really, really hard emotions. I couldn't sit with myself until I started to look in the mirror and actually take responsibility. I had to stop blaming other people. Even if there were things that I was involved in that I didn't ask for, even if there were things that I was involved in that were someone else's fault, I had to ask myself, how could I take responsibility? If you've ever been cheated on, how do you take responsibility for that? And you might be like right now, what the hell are you talking about? When I was cheated on over and over again, especially during an extremely vulnerable time in my life, I blamed that person for a very long time. I was angry for a very long time. And then finally, with healing and with work, I had to stop blaming. I had to be like, what can I take accountability for? And how I found that out is I started to ask myself, what, like, I'm not saying that I deserved it. I'm not saying that that's what I asked for, because if those things happen to you, that's not at all the truth. But why did I choose someone like that? What drew me to someone that, was able to do that and look me dead in the eye? And what was I looking for in them? I had to ask myself those tough questions. I had the idea that, love needed to be earned. So I worked and I worked and I worked, and I was mistreated. So when I finally allowed myself to just start the process of healing, I became mindful and tried to leave everyone else out of it. And I think that we're human, and so we're naturally going to have those emotions where, we're angry at people and we want to blame. But I really encourage you to rewire your brain. You can be angry. Being angry is okay. Acting out of anger is not. And blaming someone is also not, because we have to be able to take responsibility for something. We have to be able to let go of control. There's just no excuses. Like, this person did this, and people do terrible things, right? People do terrible, evil things. Life is unfair. And again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because there's some things, of course, there's always an exception to what I'm saying. There's always going to be a scenario. There's some things in this life where it's just, there's nothing that we can do but blame that person when things are done that are so incredibly evil, like abuse. But in situations where we get into something where it's like, hey, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be cheated on. I didn't sign up to get a job for 3 months and then you decide to replace me. I didn't sign up to be the step parent, and the kids, won't even communicate with me. Like, there's so many things. There's so many things in this life where it's like, hey, I didn't sign up for this. But we can't blame. We can't blame. We have to be able to take responsibility for what we can. Acceptance is the road to all healing. We have to be willing to make statements like, I just can't control this. And rewire our brain to say things like, this person sees it differently than I do. And I accept that. This is not healthy for me anymore. I accept that. Things did not go the way that I planned. I feel this relationship is limiting my growth. And I accept that. And when we say those things, it's okay if they come with really, really hard feelings. That's okay. We're going to experience emotions that are hard. Emotions that we're going to experience grief and sadness and discomfort. Those things are all okay, because when we accept really hard things, we have to be willing to go through hard emotions. And a lot of the times, that's why people don't accept certain things. I've learned in this life that rather than acceptance, rather than choosing the hard thing, people choose the easy thing a lot. And the easy thing is being angry for a long time and being resentful. The hard thing is forgiveness and taking accountability and finding acceptance in situations that are beyond our control. We can't choose how people act. We can't choose what people say, what people do, even if we knew that person. We can't. We have to be able to accept it and process and take the time that we need. We're human, and we can give ourselves grace with that. It's so important that we accept. So as I close this episode out today, I just want to leave you with this uncomfortable truth. Not everything in your life is meant to be fixed. Not everything is meant to be a challenge or for you to just try harder. not everything is meant to stay. Some things are meant to be released. Because the truth is, you can fight as hard as you want, you can hold on as tightly as possible, but if something is not aligned, not healthy, or not meant for you in this season, no matter how badly you want it, it will continue to cost you your peace. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, is this worth the fight, or is it just time to surrender? Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to recognize when holding on is hurting you more than letting go ever will. Surrender is not giving up on your life. It's choosing not to lose yourself trying to control it. It's choosing to grieve what you thought was truly yours, but turned out to only be a lesson instead. So here's what I want you to sit with this week. Where in my life am I fighting something that might actually be asking me to surrender? And even more honestly, I want you to ask yourself, what is it costing me to keep holding on? Because peace isn't waiting for you on the other side of control. It's waiting for you the moment that you decide to release it. I want to thank you so much for being here today, for choosing growth, for taking the high road. Even when it's hard, keep choosing the road that leads to a better version of you. And let's keep taking this journey together. I'll see you next time.